Hi guys, it's time for another draw. So let's see what's my next read. Okay, let's go with let's do this one. Okay, one in the 30s. Oh, I've been waiting for this one. So it's prompt number 36, which is a book about a mob, fiction or nonfiction. So I kind of reinterpreted this because I actually hate reading about the actual, the organized crime. And reinterpreted it as a mob, which is a group of people, like a high control group, so which could work for a cult. I like cult biographies, and that is why I selected this. It has a really long title. I'm just going to say Child X by Jamie Mustard, and you can see the full title over there. So I've read a couple of, so this is a Scientology memoir, and I have read a couple of those previously. So I'm interested in reading his story because I've actually mostly read women. Anyway, let's see the synopsis. So, a notorious movement cloaked in secrecy, a prosperous black family that rose from the ashes of American slavery, a forgotten boy, and a daring escape. Jamie Mustard was born into one of the most influential fringe movements in the 1970s, Scientology. Raised on a mythos of spaceships and made to believe that it was his life's purpose to help save the world, he was determined to survive, not only unsurvivable neglect, but also the impossible physical and psychological gauntlet of extreme poverty and illiteracy. Child X is a dark existential journey into the deepest hole of human existence and the road back. Okay, it goes on, it's very long, but yeah, basically you get it. It's about Scientology. So I'm very interested in his perspective. And let's see how I like this one, how it shapes up to be up to the other books I've read about Scientology and the other memoirs that I've read. So I'm excited for this one. Thanks for watching, and watch out for my review. And what do you know about Scientology? See you in the next one. Bye. Hi guys! So this is a review of Child X by Jamie Mustard. I read this book as part of the 2026 PopSugar Reading Challenge, and this was for prompt number 36, which is a book about a mob, fiction or not fiction. And so I decided to not go with the traditional mob definition, but because I don't like to read about organized crime, though in a way I did. Because I read the Scientology memoir, and you could argue that Scientology is not exactly, how should I say, probably the FBI would agree with me on this, that it's not exactly the, I'm not going to continue with that. Anyway, so yeah, that definition definitely fit. Anyway, so Jamie was actually born into Scientology, and he left when he was 19. And it's very interesting because he actually has memories from a very, very young age. And trauma makes you remember things better. So, yeah. Anyway, I was kind of ambivalent about this book. I gave it 3 stars because while the book is very interesting and it has some very interesting information, very interesting thoughts, also structurally, I didn't like that part. So let me explain. So This book isn't just about him, but also about his family history, because Scientology basically erased his family history, so he had to reclaim it as an adult. And his family, his mom is black, so African American, and I believe his dad is white. Though I'm not going to spoil it, but there are some question marks over there. Anyway, we got to learn about his mom's family, and his mom's family actually came from slavery. And when they were freed, they quickly rose in stature and also money, thanks to education, a bunch of good luck, knowing the right people, and also a lot of hard work. So, and he feels that Scientology not just robbed him of his family's history, but also of his freedom. So he equates Scientology to slavery, and he's kind of right. So, while the parts about his family history were very interesting, they were also intermingled with his present history as he was going through his life, and also with things about stuff he read, movies he saw, music he heard, um, things that were going on at the time, history of wherever he was, Scientology history. And all of these were delivered in kind of a stream of consciousness, and it was really hard to follow. So I listened to this as an audiobook, and Jamie read it out himself. He reads kind of slow, so I listened to it at 1.3 because, yeah, you just need to listen to him at that point. But that also made it more difficult because I didn't have those visual clues that I could have used to determine when he's speaking about himself, when he's speaking about his family's history or another history or someone else. So also a lot of information that we gain of other things, of like movies, books, music, all of those. They're often just like cited for a couple of sentences, kind of like in reference to what's going on in his life at the time, and then he quickly moves on. Which actually kind of like you go like, oh, that's interesting, and then 2 seconds later you forget all about it. So I think some of those could have been really cut out. I mean, I think this book could have been like 100 pages shorter because a lot of these references, while interesting the moment you read about them or hear about them, in the long run, they don't really add much to the story. They just go like, okay, so what are we talking about right now? Also, I think structurally, it would have been better if his family's story would have been like in the beginning as like its own separate thing. And then he would have had his own story as another like part two. And then just made references to the family history part. And I'm saying this because sometimes when he was talking about his family's history, while it was very interesting, he really had a very interesting family history. Often I would go like, okay, who's this person and have we heard about him yet or not? Or when are we? Where are we? So it was really confusing. And me with my zero name memory, imagine how confusing that was when he's suddenly just like talking about this guy. And I'm like, have I heard about this person before? Anyway, so yeah, I think that would have worked much better. But anyway, it's his book. He does it the way he wants. It was still interesting. And also another interesting part was his use of language because he didn't use Scientology terms. He used his own, his own real life words, because in Scientology you sort of redefine some words and like auditing and things like that, and I think he called auditing machine-based therapy, which fine, it is. So he calls things the way they are. He purposely doesn't use Scientology language because also knowing Scientology language is kind of part of the indoctrination. I know a lot of it because this is my fourth Scientology memoir that I've read. So I'm well versed in the lingo. Also, I saw Scientology, The Aftermath. And I do want to make a video of the other 3 Scientology books that I've read. But I read some of them a long time ago, so I want to revisit that a bit. Anyway, going back to the use of language, he also talks a lot about being illiterate. And for the longest time, I thought that he meant it like he couldn't read at all, like, what you would normally call illiterate, I think. But actually, that's not what he means. What he means is that he couldn't write properly. Like, he knew words and stuff, but he couldn't. He had very bad grammar. I think also very bad spelling. He didn't know punctuation and stuff like that, which is a bit weird for me because I learned. I actually have an issue with spelling myself. It's kind of like one of these disability things, but it doesn't affect me too much because it's a minor one, but it did affect my grades, and when I was a kid it wasn't like acknowledged. So anyway, so the way I learned how to spell properly in several languages, mind you, was by reading a lot, by observing a lot, and by being very conscious of spelling. That's how I learned punctuation in different languages, because if you don't know, punctuation is different in languages. So like Italian punctuation and Hungarian punctuation, not the same. So yeah, I think he could have made a bit of an effort in there, but I'm not the one to judge. He learned eventually. And also he talks a little bit about his life after Scientology. So he went into very prestigious schools and all of those. And that shows how intelligent he is. And because those schools wouldn't have taken him on if he wasn't an intelligent person. And he is a very intelligent person. He really thinks in a very interesting way as well. So yeah, but he also did have some luck. Also a very nice grandmother. Shout out to grandma. She was the star of the show. Oh yeah, and he does acknowledge all the people that he helped him along the way. He calls them angels, and I thought that was really sweet. And I kind of adopted that. I would start to think about people who helped me as angels. So that that really touched me. So yeah, I really recommend this book, but I don't think this should be like your first Scientology memoir. And maybe don't go my route. Don't listen to it because you'll be very confused. I think it's a lot better to actually read it. But yeah, you do you. And I think it's kind of a book which some people love, some people really don't like. I was kind of in the middle. I loved parts of it. I didn't like other parts of it. But yeah, it was more of a structural issue for me rather than content. So that's the book. And thank you for sticking with me for over 10 minutes because I couldn't talk less about this book. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned for my next book, my next review, and read my written review. See you in the next one.